Welcome to the Personal Brand Era podcast. I'm your host, Ella Ray, and I'm excited to talk to Joanne Webb today. She's a self-love warrior and a coach. The first thing that I would love to know, Joanne, is how did you get into coaching?
Well, I think like any coach, we've all got a story. And for me personally, I spent many years hating myself in self-sabotage, self-hatred, self-loathing, put any of those, words together that are not very nice. And that was me. And it got for me in the midst of a highly abusive relationship, which was my second marriage, where he eventually abused me more than I abused me. And people cross our path for a reason. Everything happens for our purpose. And it was the metaphorical slap in the face I needed to go, something isn't right here. I need to love myself. And I embarked on my self-love journey. And I made a decision there and then that I was going to love myself. And I was 100% committed. So I did it, and I came out of, well, you never come out of it because you're forever on your journey, aren't you? But I kind of thought, I was a personal trainer at the time. I was doing an Instagram page with personal training. I thought I could help people like me because other people must feel like I felt, and it's a horrible place to be. So I started organically like that. And then, of course, had to backpedal because I needed the qualifications to go with it. So went and trained to be a life coach. And then just recently, that was many, many years ago, and then just recently upgraded and upskilled and trained to be a quantum coach. So I'm forever obviously adding more tools to the toolkit along the way.
Awesome. Do you focus on very specific types of clients?
Well, I know that we are very much supposed to niche down in this market, and I do deal with a lot of beautiful, beautiful spiritual women, and they seem to be the ones who are attracted to me because I suppose like attracts like, but also these beautiful souls often hand over their children to me as well. And I have a knack of dealing with teenagers, which is beautiful and I absolutely love. And as a mum of four, I never want to stop that. But you know what it's like, in the business. So, men come to me, families come to me, couples come to me, friendships come to me to resolve conflict and to learn how to communicate and to open up their heart centers. So yes, I mainly deal with women and teenagers, but if you're human and you're willing to be open and you like my vibe, we can work together.
And from all the clients that you had rich experiences with, could you say that there is like one red line of challenges that all of them are facing?
I think each and every person that comes to me is spiritual, but they don't quite know how to hone into their spirituality. And they kind of don't understand it. But also, each and every one lacks in self-worth. Self-worth and self-love is the foundation. And sometimes it's the hardest one to overcome. But sometimes it's almost also the easiest. It's these realizations like, do you love your parents? Do you love your best friend? Are they worthy? Yes, of course they're worthy. Do you think the man in the post office is worthy? Yes, of course he's worthy. Do you think your bus driver was worthy this morning? Yeah. Well, why are you not worthy then? And then you see the penny drop. But self-worth it's a massive thread. And I look around the world and you see people struggling and reactions, big reactions from people, and it's all there how they feel about themselves coming out.
And we are using the word self-love in a way that I feel sometimes when I follow social media and other people talking about it, that it might not be very clear to people what it actually means, the very definition of it, and how to actually achieve it. Because you can tell someone just love yourself, right? But in the end, that person will not know how to actually get around it and where it is coming from, this type of self-hate, right? If we reverse it from self-love. So let's talk about the definition, the pure meaning of self-love, where it is coming from, and how we can use that definition to find our way of the root cause, right? That we are hating ourselves in different situations of our lives and in different roles that we have in our lives.
Absolutely. I mean, self-love I truly believe, you look at these beautiful babies that come into the world, they are pure love, aren't they? There is nothing that is not love about babies. We all enter the world in a state of unconditional love. And when we leave this world, we leave it in a state of unconditional love. We just forget about that along the way. At the end of the day, we are program robots. That's what we are. We are being programmed from the moment we are born. And we can use our programming for good, or we can use it the other way. And it's just about teaching that and understanding that our brains are these most amazing computers. We are the most amazing computers. And some of our love, that unconditional love, just gets stripped away from us, and often by the people who love us the most, who have the best intentions. They might be bringing you up the way they were brought up, or the very opposite of how they were brought up. Teachers might say things to us along the way. Our peers might, in those really, really vulnerable years when we don't really know ourselves, when we're building our identity. And I remember teachers saying to me things like, "Oh, you've got childbearing hips." Well, as a 13-year-old girl, I just heard that as I was fat. But I've had 4 children. I very much do have childbearing hips. If we take the emotion out of it, um, you know we hear these things, we absorb them, and it's not just words, it's feelings. And little things like, for me, my primary love language is physical touch, and then words of affirmation. My parents were not particularly demonstrative, and they don't really often say the words "I love you." They do now I'm in my 40s, because I'm like, "I love you, I love you." And they happily say it back. But in those really, as I say, informative, vulnerable years growing up, I knew I was loved, but I didn't feel totally embodied as love. And my parents did nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong. So self-love is the place when we come, where we approve of ourselves, we accept who we are. I believe when we stand in our power and we take responsibility for our actions, thoughts, and behaviors, and we choose to heal. Because healing is huge, and each and every one of us needs to heal, and healing is a ongoing journey, and there is nothing more self-honoring than healing, to love ourselves deeper.
And I think it has to start with the exploration of the self. It cannot just you cannot just love yourself as you are now, especially if you are holding yourself back from exploring your own abilities, your own passions, and your own visions and goals that you have in life. So I think self love is only possible if it is paired with curiosity about yourself, right?
Absolutely. I love that. And I love the word curiosity. It's one of my favorite words. If we could all remain curious about life, wouldn't that just be magic? But you're right. And one of the first tasks I get clients to do is get to know yourself. Who are you? Because again, we often wear hats or masks in different situations, with our partner, with our children, with our parents, with our friends, with our colleagues. We're putting on these different hats, and then we're trying to fit in, and that goes a little bit away from belonging, because first and foremost, we need to belong to self. So who are you? What do you like? What fills you with joy? What drains your energy? And all of these are clues to the piece of finding out who you are, what you stand for, what your passion and purpose is. And that definitely goes hand in hand with self-love. I mean, we know it's not just a road. That's where people say to me, "What are we going to do on your course? What do we do?" And I kind of think, well, I don't have a set roadmap. I know that we're going to cover certain topics, but it's where they come up along the journey, and they always come up in the right order.
And I imagine it always visually to better understand concepts, and maybe that helps listeners and viewers as well. When I imagine a cup, right, I cannot love an empty cup, right? But when I imagine to fill that cup with my passions, with what I love and what I don't like, right, what I don't want to have in my life, I fill that cup with all the things that make me me and make me as unique as I am, right? To find
Mhm.
out all the intricacies of my emotional life, of my mental life, of my spiritual life, and even my physical, right? My external, visual, right? When I look in the mirror, who am I, right? And the moment I fill that cup completely, I will have the most matter, so to speak, that I can love upon, right? That I can love on. But
Hmm.
the more empty the cup is or gets, and I think that can happen to a human as well. We can forget ourselves, which I have discussions a lot on this podcast with other coaches that tell me that women, especially when they come into their 40s and 50s and kids are out of the house, they kind of feel like they have lost themselves. So it's not like, ooh, I have found self-love, I love myself, and everything's beautiful, right? You can lose that again if you don't keep that kind of conversation with yourself, and if you don't keep pouring into that cup, right? And I think that helps, or that can help you understand that concept and really find ways to love something very tangible, right? Something very materialistic, if you will, right? Instead of just empty affirmations, for example, which I personally don't believe in. You cannot just
No.
throw something from outside on top of my head and just expect me to love myself just because I'm telling myself I'm a queen, I'm beautiful, and all that stuff. It does not work that way, I feel.
No, no, it does not work that way. You're right. And like, I can obviously talk about myself because it's my journey, but when I was starting to love myself, my one thing I reminded myself was I've got a good heart and I'm a nice person. And that's where I started because that was the truth and it is the truth. You're right. I couldn't just go, oh, I love myself. And I was in such self-hatred about my physical body because that is a big thing, for a lot of people, how they look. And I would say things like I'd start off like perhaps when I was in the shower and I'd be going, thank you, body, for helping me get around. Thank you for helping me look after my children. Thank you for being there and allowing me to run marathons and go and do the grocery shopping and be fit and healthy, because that was the truth. And the more we are in appreciation and gratitude for the things that are the truth, it then opens our eyes to other possibilities about ourselves. Then I could perhaps take it a next step and go in, oh, I really like my hair. It was like, it's a process. It's not just a let's dive in and choose to love ourselves, but it does start with a choice. It does start with a choice. You can either want it or not want it, because it is going to take effort. It is going to take effort. It is going to take finding your truth. And you're right, and it's full of this. We are all beautiful individuals full of unique magic. And we have wonderful and weird things about us. And I think they're to be embraced, but they're often the things that we get told not to be along the way, or to tone down and things. But it's allowing all of these beautiful, crazy bits about ourselves and to love them and to love our flaws and to love our grief and to love our shame and to love our guilt. Because when we do start loving things, then we can let them go, and we can let them go with love. And that makes the journey more beautiful.
1 second, I have to plug my laptop in. I forgot to do that.
That's okay. I'm going to shut my door because I've got children now walking around. Perfect timing.
I really love what you just said, that we not only learn to love like the positive things, right? Like if you indeed have like beautiful hair, that it is obvious, it is easy to love. But I think, and there you kind of ripen as a human being when you start to kind of acknowledge also the negative things about yourself, and you find a way to love these intricacies as well, like these little details whenever you get upset about certain things that come up every day maybe, or things that you don't like about yourself, really, how you do certain things, right? Or how other people treat you sometimes, right? And you don't find maybe the right language to set your boundaries or to articulate yourself in an appropriate way, right? I really love that because mm, this will help you develop self-love that will be unwavering, if you will, because it's the hard part of it. It's not the easiest thing to do. And you also talk about And I think this flows beautifully into this conversation about feminine and masculine energy, which I am sure is contributing a lot to this concept of self-love. How and when you can actually find the courage and ways to love yourself is when you are kind of in balance between feminine and masculine energy. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, sure. And you're right, because when we are out of balance, everything feels off, whether that's our energy or, or anything when we're out of balance, when we're giving too much or taking too much, it feels off. So I believe we've been off balance with our energy for many, many years. The country, the world has been run very much on masculine energy. Let's do things, let's take action. My business name is the Happiness Hustler, and it's ironic, really. I don't believe we need to hustle at all. I believe there is a flow state, but we have been hustling. We've been shown that we need to work really hard, and everything has to be power, control, and that's all very masculine, but that's also very negative masculine. The need for power, control, how countries and nations have been run. And we've all been on this rat race. Think about even like 20 years ago when there was a lot of women entering the boardroom. It was all like they were behaving like men, being ball breakers. And, there was all these terminologies around. And we're all just out of flow. And for many years, spiritually, I've been hearing rise of the divine feminine, rise of the divine feminine. And to be honest, I didn't really understand what that meant until I did. And we've got these two beautiful, beautiful eternal life forces to work with of, the divine feminine, the sacred masculine. And when we understand the two energies and we can tap into both of them, but we also understand the shadow sides of them, and we go, oh, I'm being, if you are being like over nurturing, over giving, well, that's the negative feminine. You're not standing in empowerment if you're there. You're not standing in empowerment if you are in the negative masculine of control and, power, like power, but power used for bad. Whereas when you tap into that beautiful, beautiful life forces within of flow and wisdom and nurturing, and even just saying the words just make me go, and then take action from that place and make a plan from that place. Of course, you need the two life forces. If you're forever in the feminine, you would never get anything done. You would literally be floating around and everything would be lovely, but nothing would actually get done. So we need these two to come together and to do this beautiful dance and hold each other. And when I see any individual tap into their femininity, because we all have it inside of us, don't we? It's not a male female thing. But when I see them tap into that and take moments of reflection and tap into their inner wisdom, inner knowledge, intuition, allow their intuition just to flourish, it's so beautiful. So beautiful.
Like you said, it's also my observation that it is for a long time now. People, especially in the Western countries, have been trained and brainwashed almost into believing that they have to operate on this toxic masculine energy. And what it does is people start to trust less the real divine energies that we have, right? And so we remain on that lower frequency, if you will, and we never actually get up because we have lost the ability to trust in it. Because like you've just described it, being in flow, like people immediately would think, like, what's that gonna do for my business? I need to hustle, I need to work, I need to make sales calls and all that stuff. Really, again, into that very harsh masculine energy, right? There's absolutely no trust in being anymore, right? There's only trust that we have developed over centuries in doing. And that also beautifully ties into the theories of manifestation, right? And all the frequency theories and all that stuff. And people call it woo woo and all that stuff, that it's not really scientific and it does not really work. I don't believe in it, right? They dismiss it quite quickly because the only trust they have is in that toxic masculinity. And I think it is especially harmful for women, right? Not only because our cycle is not made to operate on a masculine energy level, but also for other reasons that we should really dive deeper into from a very young age as girls and teens, that I feel, and you work with teens as well, right? And that should be addressed in a very specific way, because um, this is enormously harmful for women to not operate on their feminine cycle. They go ahead and they train like men in a fitness center, right? To show off how much they can lift weights, right? For example, that's so ridiculous to me, right? Because you never can tap into your power when you try to be someone else.
No.
And as women, we have, and I think that's made on purpose. I truly believe that we have been stripped away from our divine femininity on purpose, because it is enormously powerful. It is, in my belief, one of the most powerful energies that we have as humans. And once that energy is stripped away, like whoever's controlling that system can do whatever they want with us. And the
Mhm.
last standing wall or shield is the woman. And what I see these days happening to women is that they are being stripped away not only from their feminine energy. If that was all, would not be that bad. But now they go ahead and try to convince women not to have children anymore, not to nurse, not to be pregnant, not to give birth naturally, all those things. And I think your work stands against it, right?
Yeah,
Going into self-love, going into the feminine energy, you also emphasize abundance. And I think that closely ties with feminine energy, because the woman multiplies, and so the
mm,
woman creates abundance. Can you
I
talk
agree.
more about that concept that you work with clients?
Oh, my heart's just singing at the minute, because you are so right. Everything you're saying, I believe, when I get given my visions, I get given visions of utopia, euphoria. The world can be a beautiful place. And it is a beautiful place. It is magical when we allow it and we tap into that frequency. And abundance is everywhere. Look at Mother Nature. Mother Nature shows us abundance all the time. And she is giving us the message forever. If you just open your eyes and just looked out into my garden and look at how things go away during the cycles, cyclic, they get closed down over winter and then they spring up in spring. I'm here in New Zealand, we're just in spring now, and you can feel the spring in the air, even though it's raining right now. And abundance is coming, and growth, and that fertility, and all of these beautiful words that to me do tap into that feminine energy. And when a woman realizes her innate beauty and worth and steps into that power and walks the world with her bare feet in that grounded energy, she is a force of nature. She is a force to be reckoned with, and she can go and change the entire world. And we are at a stage in our planet where I can see women are twitchy. People are twitching because something's happening inside of them and they can't quite put their finger on it. They're not feeling themselves. They're just not feeling it. Things that used to fill them with joy perhaps are not, because they are ready to awaken. They are ready to flourish. And abundance is everywhere. Yet media and social media and the world wants us to live in fear. They want us to live in scarcity and fear, and that is not the truth. But when we do tap into those life force energies, you're right, We can't be manipulated. We cannot be controlled in the same way. We go back into curiosity. We go back into our own truth, and we go in and trust. Trust is a huge word. When we learn to trust ourselves, we trust the universe, and we know it has our back. And serendipitous things happen, and magical things happen, and anything you want is there for the taking. And I don't talk about things like, it's not like, for me, it's not the material things, but if you want material things, that's there for you as well. That's fine. For me, it's my essence of life is a peaceful heart, experiencing joy every day, laughter, happiness, love, unconditional love. When we can run our life in these places, we are all of a sudden, our frequency is not down here. We are up here. We're practically floating. And it's beautiful. It's amazing. And abundance is everywhere.
You said something very interesting and important. You said barefoot on the ground. I just recently watched, I forgot his name, but he's very popular right now. He was calculating basically the lifespan of people, and he was working for insurance companies. I think his last name is Becker. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But he turned his back on this career because he noticed he doesn't want to kind of betray people in that way, to calculate their lifespan and be very precise at predicting when they are going to die. So the insurance companies could practically calculate the contracts accordingly. He decided to go out and heal people, right? He is more into fitness now, into lifespan prolonging and all that stuff. And he did an experiment that I find very interesting. For me personally, it was very natural from the beginning. I grew up in Asia and I was barefoot all the time. So it was a natural, it was a given, it was nothing special, right? But of course, when I moved to Germany, everything changed and I had to wear shoes and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
then I noticed a shift in myself. But back to what the guy found out with his experiment, he took an electrical meter and he actually proved that there is an electric currency going through the earth. And this electrical currency goes through your body only if you are barefoot on the ground. So when you're wearing shoes, that electrical current is not going through your body. It is not benefiting you in any way. But when you're actually barefoot, you get all the positive energy from the earth. And this recharges you, right? And especially important for women because we need that recharge, right? Based on our cycle, we need that. And so I find that very, very important that you mentioned that, because when I actually moved to Germany, I noticed an enormous shift. When I was a kid, a little girl in the mountains, there was such a profound energy in those Himalayan mountains where I grew up that I felt like a queen. It was a given. I felt so powerful, right? There was
Mm-hmm.
nothing weak, not a single weak cell in my body. Right? But when I moved to Germany, there were no mountains, no stones around us, no barefoot walking on the ground anymore. I felt like my self-love, self-esteem, self-worth, everything about me, and not only because I was discriminated or anything. That was just um, a secondary reason, right? But the energy that I got from nature itself and the way I was dressing, right, eliminated all my feelings of worthiness.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that year by year, until when I was a teen, I could explain things more easily, right, and better after going through psychology and all that stuff, and scientific um, levels of explaining what was happening to me. And I noticed that for many, many people in the West, that this is happening for them even since birth, right? If they don't have that, if they don't have that natural connection, they never actually experience that. And top that off with bad diet, not moving around enough, right? And I'm sure this is also part of your work, that you also work with partly nutrition and how you move, since you've been in fitness, right? Um, what role does that play in your work when it comes to nutrition and movement and fitness?
Well, thank you for mentioning that. It's a beautiful story. And you're right as well. You're right about the power of Mother Nature and the electrical currents. And, when you look around, nature has everything we need to heal. We have everything inside of us to heal, physically and mentally. Our bodies are the best chemist in the world. They can produce the best, natural drugs to help us heal. We just need to tune into nature more, as you say, get out in bare feet, hug a tree, go into the ocean to let go, release, replenish, cleanse. Everything. Say, go into the forest to feel grounded, all of the talk of the trees, listen to the vibration of the trees. Oh, I love forest floors and all of that, zingy energy between the trees. It's Mother Nature literally has everything for our healing. And when I work with clients, I work on a body, mind, spirit level. I'm still a physical personal trainer now as well, because it's just part of my passion. I still love doing that, but I work with the whole body, so body, mind, and spirit, and nutrition, cleansing, and, as you say, moving our body. It's the entire package. The entire package. As humans, we're not made to sit still. We're not made to eat crap food in plastic packets all the time. That's not what we're here to do. We're never designed to do any of that. So the closer we can get back to our roots and basic living, doesn't mean you can't have your luxuries on top of that. That's not what I mean at all. But if you can get back to being grounded and, as you say, walking around barefoot, or even just taking your shoes off once a day, and even if you've got a little tiny patch of grass, just go and standing on that if you don't have a beach on your doorstep, or, as you say, the Himalayan mountains. But wherever you are, there is some part that you can go and, I have big pebbles on my desk sometimes, so I sometimes might just hold a really big pebble. It's just part of the earth. And, I'm surrounded by crystals because it's part of the earth. And it's all so important, remembering who we are and that we are a soul here doing this human experience, but taking all that there is to offer to be fully human as well. There's so much beauty there.
You actually wrote a book, right, called Leading with Light. I would love to know what sparked the idea to write that book, and what is the favorite chapter that you were writing about?
Okay, I'm one of 10 authors in the book, so I've only wrote one chapter, but what inspired me to be part of it is because it was such a beautiful vision. Jess Rydell, who was the visionary in the book, she wanted to bring together light leaders, thought leaders, people who are offering their light to the world, to just show people that it's not as hard as what we're led to believe, and to offer some simple tools and guides and beauty on how to become more aligned and to lead with light rather than live in the dark and the fear. And so brought together these 10 souls who all have slightly different things to offer. And of course, my chapter is all about love, healing thyself, loving thyself, and then loving the world, and living from a place of unconditional love, and how to do that. And it's only 5,000 words. It's very easy to read, and my chapter is going to be in an ebook soon, which I will be able to offer to clients as well. So, but there's things in that book, from ageless living to living in mindfulness and the supernatural and shamanism. But actually, there's that common thread all through it as well, that once we do our work, once we accept who we are and tap into the self-love, tap into the energy of the universe, then life becomes, and I'm going to use the word easier, but I don't mean that, because life is always going to be life. Life is always going to throw things our way, but we handle it, and our perception of it is different, and therefore it feels different. It flows more. And so, yeah, just being part of the book was a privilege. And I remember trying to write my chapter and just walking along the beach and nothing. I wasn't writing because I have to just wait for it to flow, and then all of a sudden it just flows. And yeah, and I was really pleased with the chapter. You know, as I say, it starts off with, you know, loving thyself and healing thyself, and then once you're in that place, I think people underestimate how important they are. I think each and every one of us underestimate how important we are and the effect we can have on the world. I described it the other day of like a domino. You know, there's a domino and then there's the next one, and you just press the line. If you put 10 dominoes in a row and they're the 10 people that you could have in your life, that's the effect in your life. But, you know, you remember you used to see those big massive domino things, and there's millions of them all going out from that one little domino that you tap. Well, that's you, that you're that one little domino. And you don't realize that actually you're just not the 10 dominoes. You are the whole scattering of people who have taken days and months and years to put them all up in a little row. And the effect just goes out monumentally in the world. So that's really what my chapter's about. It's about being the light, being the domino, and having that effect on the rest of the world. Because once you are in your power, once you are vibrating at that higher frequency, not all the time, not 24/7, because that's impossible. If you were that, you'd be enlightened and you wouldn't really be human. But if you're trying to, you know, if you are living a life on purpose to live in that frequency most of the time, while having your quiet moments and dealing with the other stuff, that's the energy you are putting out in the world, and you affect that person, and then they pass it on to the other person. And everybody and everything you come in contact with, everything you write, everything you speak, every person you touch, every person you see, you've just offered a piece of your soul. And that's beautiful. And that's how we're going to change the world.
Fully agree with that. And I love what you just said, that it is the simplicity or the easy things that are actually able or capable of creating monumental change. I think people dismiss oftentimes the simple things like going out, taking a walk into the nature, right? They dismiss all these things thinking that it has to be complicated or complex to be
Mm-hmm.
worthy, right? And then there again, you can catch yourself that your self-love and self-worth is not on the highest level if you think everything has to be complicated, because then you're just overwhelming yourself. This monumental change, I fully agree, comes from the simple things of just exuding a certain energy, right? And there's nothing easy about creating that energy, especially when you are in a place of darkness, right? And many people who are listening to this podcast are in a place of darkness, whether it is just once a day or just in their whole life, right? They have not found a way to get out of this negativity and low frequency. They will find it very hard to switch, right? To find that switch that they can turn on and finally see the light, right? In all the darkness that they have experienced maybe in their lives. And I think people like you and your work are like a switch, are like what are a flashlight. You are like a
Mm-hmm.
flashlight that can guide people into finding their own switch. And I think in terms of when you are feeling in a very dark place, it is extremely important that you find someone who has found that switch in their own lives, because they are able to show you where you can find it yourself. And once you find that switch, and this is the most important thing, once you find it, you can never lose it, because you know where it is, you know the location, you know how it feels. You can always come back to it, right? It is like a lifesaver. And I find
Yeah.
it very profound that you talk about light in this sense, right? Or in this instance, because we are surrounded by a lot of darkness, as you mentioned before, on social media. You can so easily be swept away like a hurricane, like a tsunami, right, by this darkness and by this negativity. And I think it's, again, on purpose, maybe in some ways, you should be swept away by it. And you need to find the strength to actually swim against it, because only dead fish would swim with the stream. You need to find the power, the courage, the strength, the resilience, the consistency to do this every day, right? And I can imagine that you also have certain techniques or tools or exercises that you recommend your clients to do on a daily basis to actually stay in the light.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I hear people say things all the time like, I'm a loser, I'm awful, I'm stupid, I'm disgusting. And a lot of it stems from comparison to other people or some expectation that's been put on them or a societal expectation. You should be doing this, you should be that. I even think about when I had my children and, there's all these milestones. And if you don't hit your milestones, either you feel like a bad parent or you think you've got something wrong with your child. It's ingrained in us, and it's stripping all of this bullshit away, if I'm allowed to say that, and getting back to basics, because everybody's beautiful, everybody's got something to offer. And I do offer techniques, simple techniques. Wake up in the morning and try to make your first thought a positive one, because those first moments of the day often set the trajectory of your day. And it could just be as simple, something as simple like, I'm open to see opportunities today, because that might be the truth. It might not be that you're loving yourself or loving your life at the minute. And if you are in darkness, I understand that. I lived with depression for 20 years. I had my children through depression. I had a nervous breakdown in the end, and it was a dark place, but I had to put on this happy veneer because that's what I thought. I had to be the good girl, the people pleaser. And it was exhausting. I'm surprised I had a nervous breakdown. It was bone achingly exhausting. And when we are in those dark places, we make decisions from a dark place. And can any of those decisions be good decisions? And when we are in low moods, our emotions affect our thoughts affect our beliefs. A belief is only a thought that's gone round and round in our head 100 times and becomes a belief. So if we can come back down the chain and have a look at our emotions and then biohack our emotions, like, oh, I'm feeling really blue and sad and nothing. Some people feel nothing, numb. Okay, well, can we find something to be grateful for in the world? Well, I love my neighbour's cat. She comes in and I love it when she's here. Okay, well, be grateful for the cat. Be grateful that you love the sunshine or that you like to stargaze. Find the things in life that you are actually grateful for. And sometimes that's hard as well. Well, okay, well, I'm kind of grateful that I got up this morning. Let's just start somewhere, because gratitude is a higher vibration than hatred, rage, resentment, bitterness, jealousy down here. They feel dark and heavy because they're close to matter. But as soon as we start to look for something that we can be grateful for, we hang on to that, we've all of a sudden biohacked our emotions, and our thoughts from gratitude are going to be more positive than our thoughts of negativity from down here. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And it is in the being. The gratitude only can occur if you notice your here and now, if you're not thinking into the future, if you're not thinking about the past, but you're actually in the here and now. Only then I feel I am able to tap into gratitude of any kind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And everything is happening here and now. And this is another thing I help people understand. Nothing else exists, but everything exists. These timelines, like spirituality, but we're not who we were yesterday. And that's why forgiveness is such a huge practice as well. I help people, with that guiding light. It's forgiving the version we were yesterday, 1 hour ago, last year, last century, whatever, our past lives. Forgiving, release, let go. And tomorrow, we can worry about tomorrow as much as we want. But you mentioned also earlier in the interview about manifestation and abundance. We are always manifesting. Everything in our life has been manifested. It's not just some manifesting practice. We sit down with the full moon or the new moon, although I do love to do all of that as well. But we are forever manifesting. Our thoughts are manifesting our reality. So if we can retrain our thoughts with a bit of neuroplasticity and some good habits every day, and it's not false affirmations, it's not saying things that are so far out of our comfort zone that it just feels silly. It's finding some things that are actually the truth. I've got a good heart. I'm a good person. I am grateful for the neighbour's cat who comes in. I'm grateful that my parents phone me once a week. It's these kind of things that change our life and put us in a much more of a place of empowerment where then we can start making different decisions.
Absolutely. I also see you talk about dance or dancing. And in what way does that play a role in your work? And what are the benefits if we talk about energies and frequency and feminine energy? How does that influence this whole equation?
Well, you know, like when you see an animal and they get startled in the wild and they freeze, like there might be like a lion and there might be the deer, and the deer freezes and then the lion goes past and the deer's like, I got away with that, I got away with that. And then they shake it all off. They just have a good old shake. And by doing that, they are releasing the trauma that they just experienced. They were just in fight and flight, they froze and they shake it all off. As humans, we have 50 trillion cells running through our body, and a lot of them are filled with trauma. So if we can put on some good old music, whatever fills your soul, it might be a tribal beat, it might be some house music, I don't care what it is, but whatever fills your soul, and shake it out, and intentionally shake it out. I am moving this energy. I am releasing. I am letting go. I'm allowing my energy to move. Just when you think about that at the start, and then just allow yourself to get into the flow of the music and dance, move your body. You might do the most strangest things. I've been to ecstatic dances and I've been lying on the floor, rolling around. The next minute, I've been jumping up and down in the air like I'm on a pogo stick. There are no rules. We are contained in these little boxes, and dancing looks like this, and you only look cool if you look like that. Get rid of it all. If you don't want anybody to see you, close your curtains, lock your front door, put on some music, and see how good you feel after 5 minutes of dancing.
The interesting thing about dancing, or how you describe it just now, is that kids would naturally do that when they are very young, and you put any kind of music on, no matter what beat, no matter what melody or what music genre, right? They don't really care. They oftentimes move their bodies if they are not traumatized, obviously, but if they grew up normally, more or less, they will move their body very naturally, right? And they will not adhere to any kind of standards or expectations by the parents, let's say. It all evolves later on, right? They would check the reaction by the parents, right? And I feel like this is where this restriction starts to come in into the children's bodies, right? Whenever the expectation of the parent is different, or maybe even pressure, hey, you gotta dance like so and so, right? Or you have to have rhythm, or you don't have rhythm, right? Insulting the kids, right?
Yeah.
I see that all the time as well. And not letting the child actually be however they feel, and try to find their own rhythm, try to find
Mm-hmm.
their own being and existing in this time space continuum, if you will.
Yeah, I
And
agree. And like, I believe we should all just behave like toddlers. If we all behaved like toddlers and lived our life in that curiosity, we'd be much happier souls. But another thing along that line is I help. We do sacred screaming as well, whether you want to do it into a pillow or go and stand on the top of a mountain or even dive into the ocean with your mouth open going, ah, don't breathe in, just breathe out. Because we have such repressed emotions as well. You know, don't be angry, don't cry. We're kind of shown that as a child as well. You know, anger's not good. Anger's fine. Anger is absolutely to be embraced because you're feeling angry for a reason. There's something underneath that anger. Anger's never a first emotion. Anger is a secondary emotion to something you're feeling. So, what is the feeling under there? And what do you need to let out? Are you really sad? Have you been betrayed? What's underneath that anger? And don't worry about. Yes, we shouldn't let it out. We shouldn't go and shout at another person or physically harm things or any of that. Absolutely. If we are taught how to deal with our anger, hurt, upset, sadness, whatever the emotion is, and shown how to release it, we'd be much more healthier people, and there wouldn't be as much body aches and disease either, because a lot of these aches and pains are coming from trapped emotions, trapped trauma. So sacred screaming is such a beautiful tool to use, or punching a pillow, getting it out. It's okay. We are human. We are feeling this for a reason. As long as we can do it in a safe environment and make it sacred, all the better. I've got about 6 pillows on my bed. If something makes me really angry, I sometimes go and throw them across the room, and then I throw them back the other way. And your body just feels so good when you do it. Or scream at the top of your lungs. Let it out. Let it out.
I fully agree. And it's so interesting. I'm also a voice teacher, and the voice is actually a very intricate and delicate instrument that is given to you to release, right? It is not so much to take in like other parts of our bodies, but it is primarily to release, right? And when you are actually doing these sacred screamings, just bear in mind not to overdo it in a way that you harm your voice. That's the only thing I would suggest. But when you actually do that, you release all the pain as well, right? You release all the tension in your body that can, as you just said, create any kind of illnesses, long-term chronic pain, chronic illnesses, not only around your voice box, but also in your head. You can get chronic headaches, for example, if you never say what you really want to say, if you never allow yourself to be angry in the right way, if you never learn how to manage your anger in the right way, it will be stored in any other parts of your body because you never actually allowed to release it. So I absolutely love that you do that as well in your work. Uh, I don't do sacred screaming with my clients, but I know that it is very effective. And it actually reminds me of the things that are going on right now that I see on Twitter, for example, right, where young kids, mostly African American kids, have real problems in managing their anger. Right, they are throwing chairs at their teachers. They are looting shops and stores and all that stuff. And I think when parents are actually able to teach their kids these principles and these tools to manage their anger. As you said, it's totally normal. If you are angry, it's fine. You should never communicate to a child that it should not express their anger or that it should not be there, because then you go to the part of the integrity of the child. You neglect the integrity of the child. And every time you do that, you kind of punish the child for being who they are. So let it be okay, but at the same time, teach the children to have these tools so they don't harm other people, as you described it. And I think it is very, very important that we address that and not
Absolutely. And I think
neglect it or say, oh, that's a difficult conversation, oh, we should not talk about it because that's black people stuff, and we as white people we should not get involved or anything, right? That you sometimes also hear. I'm brave enough to talk about it, and I think your work shows how important it is, and how crucial it is to get involved. And I don't care about skin of the color of the skin. I really don't care, because
Well, to
we're
be honest
all
with you, it's
human.
not.
We're
Yeah.
all connected.
And it's happening all across the board anyway. It's not just one race or one creed.
Yeah.
It's happening everywhere, this is. And when I end up working a lot with parents and teenagers, I actually end up working, the parents sometimes bring their teenagers to me because their teenager is in angst. It might be self-harming or, suicidal ideation. But I often end up helping the parents because, yes, it's important to help our children deal with their emotions, but there's a lot of parents walking around who cannot regulate their own emotions. They have not learned how to regulate their emotions. And one of it is allowing ourselves to let it out somewhere, somehow, in a healthy way, but also to feel our pain. To heal, we need to feel, but we're forever. At the end of the day, look at humans in the world. You're either running away from an emotion or towards an emotion. So you're either running away from something, trying to hide it because you don't want to feel that, and then perhaps you run into something to find a distraction in that emotion, so you feel happiness. So why do we think there's so much addiction, so much poor mental health at the minute? Because we're not taught how to feel our feelings, and then we are not taught how to let it out. And even if we could just offer those two skills in school, the world would be a different place. And that's why I love working with people. I love it when people get it. And people think also, don't compare. People go, oh, well, I was never abused by my parents, or, we had a bit of money growing up. Doesn't matter. You will still have trauma. You will still have things you need to heal from. You've still got hang-ups. You've still got limiting beliefs. You've still got programming you need to change. Fact. And if you can step into that power and go, I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to heal myself, because the only way we are going to heal this beautiful world is healing ourselves one person at a time. And then we can pass all of that beautiful knowledge on to our youth, our babies, our peers, our elders.
And if you could tell a young person, let's say a young woman, 18 years old, struggling with self-love, what would you tell her?
I'd say you are amazing. You are unique. You are magnificent. You are exquisite, exactly as you are. And the quicker you realize that, the better your life will be. And if you can choose today to choose you and to do some work, and it might feel uncomfortable, you might feel silly, you might feel self-conscious. You don't have to tell anyone. You can just do it yourself, or work with somebody like me, or follow a mentor. If you're prepared to do a little bit of work every day, I promise you the rewards will be exponential. Choose you.
That's beautiful. Especially the choose you, because so often, especially when we are young, we are choosing always something or someone else,
Yeah.
right? Above ourselves. And later
Choose.
on, even when we have kids, we also tend to choose someone else, right? Or something else. And not to be over dramatic about this thing, but people are, or women in particular, I find, are a bit neglecting the self-care part
Yeah.
and creating a space where I would not necessarily say that it is self-care, like running away again from the real work. Instead, they are going, oh, I'm going to do my hair today, right?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that. But it is not the real work when it comes to self-love,
Mm-mm.
self-worth. Now you have to look deeper into yourself, acknowledge maybe mistakes that you've done, maybe things that you need to forgive yourself for. Now that's so much harder than forgiving someone else, because you will always run away from it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why, that's why that's why I will forever have a coach as well. I will forever have a coach, because I don't ever want to slip back. I want to continue evolving. And sometimes you need somebody to call you out on your own rubbish that you carry around, because we can all put a story around everything. Oh, well, well, haven't got the time, or da 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 da. No, you have. Come on, we're going to do this. Okay. And it is uncomfortable at times. It gets easier the more you do it. But also, as I say, the rewards outweigh the work that you're doing and the discomfort at the time. It's worth facing the discomfort. It's worth facing your fears, because life is so much better on the other side. But it's a forever journey. We've talked about this whole self-love thing throughout this whole chat. It's, as a fitness expert, I know I've run ultra marathons. I couldn't go out tomorrow and run an ultra marathon, because I'm not programmed to do that anymore. I could perhaps run a marathon tomorrow, but you've got to carry on doing the work. And it's the little things every day that matter, forever talking to yourself beautifully, forever, celebrating the small wins, seeing what's joyful in your life, and doing things that bring you joy. It might just be your morning cup of tea in peace and quiet, finding magic in the mundane, finding joy in the ordinary. This is part of self-love. This is part of living a great, great life.
taking
but
it
it's an
step by
everyday.
step, right?
Yeah,
As I imagine,
totally.
as you say, taking the simple things or easy things first that you could handle every day, right? If it's the cup of tea in the mornings, well, then you just do that every day. And then you add maybe another thing that you find very easy to put on top of it. So you climb that ladder, right? And however fast you feel you can grow, right? I think this is also kind of a bit of a pressure that I feel coming from social media, especially from the personal development niche, right? Who are pushing a lot onto people, again, very masculine, right? And not allowing for an individual timing, if you will, right? Whenever someone is ready to do things, I always hear the phrase, do it before you are ready. Like, would you tell that your daughter who is going out on a date with a person, with a man she doesn't know, do it
No.
before you're ready? You would never say that. Like, why do you tell that to anyone in any circumstance? And I feel timing is a very intricate thing that people oftentimes forget to pay attention to because they are so bound to the clock. And I don't mean the clock, right? The clock doesn't play any role in the body, right? You have your own timing. And everything that we've talked about in this interview today is proof of that.
Mm.
Light needs time. The movement that you make with your body needs time. Your healing journey takes time, and you may have a bigger package than your neighbor, right? Or a smaller one, or a different one. So I find it beautiful that you are such an intuitive coach that you go with the flow. You don't have like rigid things to do on the spot, right? And if you have to do that for 40 minutes and all that stuff, and again, people will dismiss that. They will think, oh, she has no plan. But
Mm.
actually, this is what is the crucial part about healing, in my personal opinion and experience. The moment that you allow a person to listen to their own timing, like actually create their own symphony, if you will, life's symphony, the healing journey that they want to create. And you, as a coach, actually allow that to happen without putting any pressure on it. Because we all know as soon as you put pressure on the brain, it kind of shuts down. It is not able to learn, it is not able to grow or to pursue any kind of achievable goals, right?
Mm-hmm. I see people's unique magic, and as soon as they either walk in my room and see me, or I see them over Zoom, I see their magic, I see their capabilities, I see their soul, I see what they're here to do. But it's not my job to tell them that. That's not my role in life. My role is to help them discover it themselves. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I can be quite abrupt and I can tell them things when needed to. But it's about allowing people on their beautiful journey of life. We are all individuals. We're all doing our own. We're all doing the best we can at the time we are in. And I think the more compassion we can have for ourselves and for the world, that brings a beauty. And you're right, sometimes you do have to cajole people and encourage them to do things, absolutely. But if we're doing that all the time, the person isn't ready to do it yet. And so timing is key. And that's why, I used to have very there's an 8-week structure, we're going to do this. And with some people, that's what they need. They need that container, and I can work like that. But with other people, it's like, look, we're going to just work together. Come and work with me for a month, see where you feel like you're going. And then if you want to sign up for another month, we'll do another month. And I work, as I say, intuitively. When they come to me, I can see where they need to heal on that day. And then some people are like, oh, it doesn't feel like, and I'm stick with it. And after about week 3, they usually have like a bit of a meltdown. And I'm like, great, this is great, this is awesome, this is what we need, this is the meltdown, this is happening. Week 3 or 4. And then, healing's a funny old journey, because if sometimes feels like you're not getting anywhere, but then all of a sudden you stand in your power and you look back and you go, I've just handled something totally different than I would have last month. I didn't realize how much I've healed, but actually I am healing because I haven't put myself down today, or somebody's just come to me with an issue and I've put in a boundary. It's subtle, It's subtle until you realize it, and then it's not so subtle.
That is so true.
Mm.
Where can people find you to start that journey?
I'm on Instagram as _happiness hustler, and I mainly use my own personal Facebook page, Joanne Webb, but I am on the Happiness Hustler on Facebook as well. And my website is www.thehappinesshustler.com.
And of course, I will leave all the links in the description and show notes for everyone to just easily click and get in contact with you.
Thank you. I've also got a Facebook group called the Loving Warrior Goddess Soul Circle. If anybody would like to join that, just click the link. And I'd love you to be part of the community.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Joanne. I enjoyed this to no end. You are my tribe.
Yeah, thank you. It's been lovely.
This
It's
is
been such a lovely
beautiful.
way to wake up on a Saturday morning in New Zealand. So thank you very much.